What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Friday wherever you are. Friday, March 31st, the end of the month, at the beginning of another Premier League weekend is upon us. Yes, I am so early as well. I was scheduled for 2 p.m. and I thought, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready now. Why wait? Why wait? What are we waiting around for? Let's go live now. Let's have a chat. Let's have some press conference reaction as Erik ten Hag has spoken to the assembled media at Carrington ahead of Sunday's trip to St James's Park for that Premier League clash against Newcastle United. And we're going to talk a little bit about Luke Shaw. The news developing this lunchtime is that Luke Shaw has indeed agreed a new 4-year contract extension at Manchester United. He's going to be sticking around until 2027. So we're going to get into that. As I mentioned, we're going to get into the reaction and the comments from Ten Hag at the presser. It must be said, really, it must be said, I know I try my very best when it comes to these press conferences to give the journalists the benefit of the doubt. Not every question can be the best question in the world. Sometimes someone takes it and you've got to say this, or you've got to say that, or you've got to do this, you've got to do that. Some of the questions today, I don't want to swear this early on during the stream, to be honest, but still, some of the questions today were just nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Honestly, and I feel he's too smart to fall for any of these kind of traps, but some of the questions deliberately trying to get him to say something negative or picking up on something he said, maybe because, again, English is not his first language. So they go, oh, what do you mean by that? Or did you say this? Or trying to get him to maybe say negative things about Marcus Rashford, about his trip away. Absolute nonsense was being said in the press conference day, and Erik ten Hag, as always, handled it to perfection. But I was watching it, and to give you a bit of an insight to my process when I prepare for these press conference streams, I'm there, I'm listening, I'm typing away notes, I get the quotes, and I was just shaking my head at certain points, going, "What kind of question is that?" Or, you know, when it's so obvious when someone's trying to do something a bit nefarious, and you go, "What? Look at you! What are you trying to do?" And either way, the Manchester United manager, our manager, your manager, all of our manager, my manager, your manager, all of our manager, I'll get it right in the end, handled it to perfection as always, because, absolute craziness. That was my first reaction, and I'm glad I'm not the only one that thought that. Emma, I saw, there you go, it's up on the screen there. It took a while. Technology says, these reporters asked too many stupid questions to Ten Hag. It's pointless them being there. We already know the reply he will give. What a waste of a press conference from them. Ten Hag deserves better. And it wasn't even necessarily like, the questions that you know the answer. I mean, there were a couple of those, but also, again, my biggest issue was sort of trying to lay traps for him to say silly things or get him in trouble, trying to slip him up. I know that's the name of the game, but and it's so blatant, isn't it? There's no finesse about it whatsoever. Nevertheless, if you are just joining in as we trickle in, again, I know I am early, so be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, as we're rapidly approaching this Premier League weekend. I do want to start off talking first about the news, as I mentioned, that broke this lunchtime regarding Luke Shaw. It was broken by Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic in association with David Ornstein, saying that Luke Shaw has agreed a new long-term contract at Manchester United. It's seen as a reward for an excellent season. It's expected to be a 4-year deal, will take him beyond a decade at Manchester United. David Ornstein, again, also reporting on the same story, said Manchester United have agreed a new 4-year contract with defender Luke Shaw. The 27-year-old's existing deal was due to expire in 2024, but Man United now have a deal in place to secure England left-back's long-term future at Old Trafford. So that's not actually been officially confirmed by the club as of right now. Ten Hag was asked about this in the press conference, and he said he played a bit coy. I have no idea what you're talking about. John hasn't told me anything, and Eric knows. We know how much of a details-orientated person Erik ten Hag is. So there's no way he doesn't know. I'm sure he's aware of conversations. He might not have been told. I mean, if it was literally they agreed to it Friday, March 31st in the AM, in the morning, then maybe that's what he might be referring to. But Ten Hag knows. Ten Hag absolutely knows all of the finer details about this. And I do Look, I think Luke Shaw has been absolutely brilliant this season. I think he's been the best. We've seen the best version of Luke Shaw that I think we've seen throughout his entire United career. Now, some would say, oh, it's taken however many years to get to this point, and he only plays well when there's competition, or he only plays well when he wants a new contract. I don't particularly care. If Luke Shaw is playing well, and Luke Shaw is helping the team win things and win football matches, that to me is only a positive. I think it would be one thing if it was just form, but what I think we have seen this season from Luke Shaw is just another level. I think we've seen an extra level of maturity that we hadn't seen from him previously. I think for the first time, you can tell just physically his development this year. He looks completely different to what he looked like a year ago or years prior, and he looks more confident, and he's become, gosh, just so important, not just as a left back, but as a defender, a general defender. He is so important because we've established now he can play a centre back, and to be honest, that might be, as his career develops at United and as he gets a little bit older, he might just shift into being a centre-back. He might even shift into being a defensive midfielder, honestly. I think he's, I think, again, he's been excellent this season. I think we'll look at, you've got Malacia there and left back and the cover. And I think that's been good for him too. But absolutely, you want to tie down your best players. You want to tie down your best players and your best contract. And the most important thing when it comes to Luke Shaw signing or agreeing, I don't know if he's put pen to paper just now, but the most important thing is that Ten Hag wants him at United. And that, to me, is the key thing, because I think a lot of people are going to have to get into a position where they've got to practice what they preach. There'll be people that disagree with certain decisions, whether it's David De Gea or even maybe Luke Shaw. He doesn't deserve a contract. But they always say, but if Ten Hag wants it and Ten Hag says that he wants the player and he believes in the player, then I believe in Ten Hag. Well, we're getting to that stage now, aren't we? He said it in the press conference about Luke Shaw. I want him to stay. He was asked about David De Gea and Marcus Rashford. Do you want to keep them around? He said, yes, true. So those people that say, well, if Ten Hag wants it, I agree with Ten Hag, practice what you preach then. Because the manager wants these players at the club. The manager believes in these players. The manager trusts these players. My goodness me, does he trust Luke Shaw? He's played him centre-back in some of the biggest games of the season, whether it's the Manchester Derby or whether it's against Barcelona. That's the faith that this guy has in this defender. And if Erik Ten Hag has faith in a player and he believes in them and he says, I want them to stick around, they're important to my version of Manchester United, then I believe in Ten Hag. And I believe in Luke Shaw. I really do. So I think it's great news for United. It's one of several, hopefully, announcements that we'll get fairly soon regarding contracts, in addition to David De Gea and Marcus Rashford as well. But Luke Shaw's going to be around for 4 more years. Again, if we get any more actual details about it, i.e. salaries and all that kind of stuff, because I think that's going to be quite interesting. From what I've seen so far this lunchtime, it hasn't really been said how much. It's just been said that he's agreed a deal. I don't even know if he's put pen to paper. Yeah, it might just be a verbal agreement. It might be an agreement in principle. There might be a situation where they try and announce them all at the same time. Rashford, De Gea, Dalot, Shaw, and they do all 4 of them in one go. I don't know how they're going to do it, but the news this lunchtime is that Luke Shaw has indeed agreed a new 4-year contract with Manchester United. Let's see what some of the chat saying. Get your get your comments up on the screen as always. The reason I'm thinking questions is because I literally just jumped from doing a members-only Q&A stream. If you haven't watched it, join the members club and you can see a Q&A that Flex and myself did this lunchtime. Gosh, it's so much fun. It really is. They're completely different kind of from these kind of streams where it's just football-based questions. It's just life-based questions. It's just fun. And me and Flex, we both finished it. We went, man, that was so much fun. So definitely going to be doing more of them in the future because they're great. And obviously that's one of the advantages of being part of the UV Members Club. So you can join that by clicking the join button. In addition to that, you get your badges, your emojis, your other exclusive members-only content such as UV Raw. More episodes coming soon. There's actually one that's going to drop fairly soon, actually. I think it's the trip to Real Sociedad, I believe it is. That's going to be dropping fairly soon. And you get your members priority chat as well, such as right now from Kristen that says, need another Q&A. And Nathan says he's early. Indeed, I am, yes. Let's see what some of you guys are saying. United is life says, I disagree. Inconsistent this season. Luke Shaw's been inconsistent. I massively disagree. I mean, obviously, it's all about opinion. And you're absolutely entitled to your own. You're not going to get that here. But I disagree a lot. I think It's one of the more consistent seasons Luke Shaw has had. I mean, apart from the start of the season where he was a bit shaky, as was the entirety of the squad, it's been one of Luke Shaw's most consistent seasons, really. Again, particularly in big games, he's proven himself to be a big game player, and I think it's a real good bit of business from Manchester United. And here's hoping we do get an official announcement soon. But let's get straight into the press conference. As I mentioned, Ten Hag answered the questions ahead of Sunday's Premier League clash at St James's Park. Really difficult, challenging game, this one, especially with all of the top four ramifications that are hanging over this, and particularly with our away record. Of course, away from home, we've only really beaten Fulham this season of teams that are in the top half or a bit above. So got to get a result. Fingers crossed that we do. But the first question to Erik ten Hag was about Marcus Rashford. Of course, he's probably the biggest question mark. He didn't go on international duty. He pulled out because he had a knock. And the question was, Erik, what is the situation with Marcus Rashford? What was the injury and will he be involved? And I will say he was asked twice what the injury was with Marcus Rashford, and Erik didn't say. Now, granted, that could be because sometimes if you ask a question where it's sort of a two-parter, he'll just answer the bit at the end. But also, I just think he doesn't like to talk about what specific injuries are unless it's fairly obvious what they are. Because a lot of the time they've asked about Martial, he just won't say what it is. I think that's kind of his practice. I'm just not going to say what it is. So we don't know. We still haven't said. But about Rashford and if he's going to be available, Ten Hag said, quote, "I've good hope. He trained, but he had to do some treatment. He had to do some individual training. Today he joined with the group. We have one more day. I have good hope that he will be available." And to be honest, someone that can be maybe not vague is the right word, but even if a player is available, Ten Hag can kind of maybe suggest that they won't be, or we'll have to wait and see. That's as good as it's going to get from Erik ten Hag, I think. Marcus Rashford, for me, will 100% be starting on Sunday. I'd be flabbergasted if he didn't. If they're saying that Rashford trained today, and he's probably going to train tomorrow, and he was off for 2 weeks, to recover from the injury and also have a break. He also said a bit later on that Rashford had looked sharp and had motivation and energy. I would be really, really, really surprised if Marcus Rashford doesn't start. I think that's as good as an indication you're going to get from the Manchester United manager that Rashford's going to start. And good, we need him. He's been our best player this season in terms of goal scoring, absolutely. And to get a positive result, having Marcus Rashford on the pitch is going to put us a lot further in or closer in that direction to getting the 3 points that we need at St James's Park. So I think he'll probably have some kind of training tomorrow, not maybe like full-blown training or anything like that, but he'll continue. He's, again, trained with the group today. So I'd be surprised if Rashford doesn't start. As far as playing the entire 90 minutes, that might be a bit more unlikely. He might play 60, 75, something like that. But I think that's as good of enough of a confirmation from the Manchester United manager that, again, he's going to be starting on Sunday, which again is a massive, massive plus for Manchester United. Once again, he was asked, what is the issue with Rashford? And also, there have been talks about his contract. Do you care to comment on that? And Ten Hag said, nope, we never do. It's an internal process. We focus on winning games and, of course, also planning out for the future. So in the back, we're working on that. It's about agents. It's about football director John Murto. Rashi and I are focusing on performing. So he basically said, look, we're not going to talk about that. And Ten Hag's always done that when it's been contracts or transfers. He just goes, as the most managers say, they just go, I can't talk about that and I'm not going to talk about that. I understand the need to ask and a journalist has to ask, but you also know the response you're going to get is going to be the same every time. Can't talk about that. We're really happy with him. We're focusing on winning games. Myself and Marcus Rashford, our relationship is predicated on football and being on the pitch, being on the training pitch and scoring goals and winning football matches. The more business side of things, contracts, that's handled by the football director. Of course, at the request of Ten Hag, I'm sure he can put pressure on things and he will be part of those conversations, but he's not going to talk publicly about it at all, is he? So, again, the news will be... he certainly, Rashford shot down that thing in the week where the reports were, I say reports, the fabrication was that he was asking, or his agents, representatives were asking for £500,000 a week. He shot that down and basically said, that's bullshit. And since then, the talks have been ongoing. And as it's been widely reported, the expectation is that it's going to land in a positive space and he's going to stay at United. But as of right now, there's no new information on that. The more immediate focus, seemingly, and rightfully so, should be, is he going to play on Sunday? And it looks like, yes, he is going to be playing on Sunday. So that's the most important thing. So yes, very positive there when it comes to Marcus Rashford. See what some of you guys are saying as well in the chat. Adaz says, do you think Martial will play on Sunday, whether it's starting or just off the bench? Well, I will say stay tuned for that one because, of course, he was asked about Anthony Martial and if we could expect Martial to be involved in the squad. And he gave a bit of a cryptic but positive response, I think, if you're a Martial fan. What else are you guys saying? Ed says language owing. I know. Apologies to all of those that I've offended with my potty mouth, certainly. What else are you guys saying here? Mordia says, it's just the same game Sir Alex used to do. Some players used to pop up with weird injuries before the international break just to take a needed rest. Very true as well. I mean, look, and this is the kind of thing sometimes people don't consider about football and top-level footballers and people particularly that have got the schedule that United have had this season. You're never 100%. You're always carrying a knock. You're never 100%. You might be at 90. You might be at 85. You might be at 80. You might have injections. You might have to have the tape put on. You might have to have massages or whatever. But you're very, very, very rarely at 100% when you're playing every 3 or 4 days. You're always carrying something. And it might just be a case of, to your point where you said, I could go on this international break. I could go and play these qualifying games, which, let's face it, I might start, I might not. I might just be in the training camp and I might just be on the bench. I might play one of them. But what I need and what's best for me right now is because I do have a couple of knocks that I would like to heal up from. And also I'm running to the ground. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. And particularly with his history over the last 2 years where he has run himself into the ground, whereby last season it meant he missed the beginning of the season because he'd had surgeries on all of these injuries and he had to rehab all of these injuries. It's just not worth it. When you're in the best form of your career, the last thing you want to do is overstretch yourself and hurt yourself or hinder yourself for the remainder of the season or the future. He knows what, kind of sacrificing himself too much went for him or did for him in the past. He's not going to do that again, particularly after, make no mistake, Marcus Rashford was in form going into that World Cup, okay? No doubt about it. He was in form. He was in form at the World Cup, and he should have played more minutes than he did. And I think instead Southgate played, Phil Foden over him, and for that France game, he got brought on late on. And I'm not that you should hold a grudge. I do, but not that you should. But I would think if I'm him, if I'm really weighing up, do I really want to sacrifice myself for this guy, for this manager? I could, but I've got a bit of an. I'll be like, what? Screw it. It doesn't matter. That's it. And Marcus Rashford now is one of the most informed players, not just in the league, but in Europe. So if I was Rashford, I'd do the same thing. I would. I'd be like, okay. And make no mistake, England didn't, suffer for not having Marcus Rashford there. It's not like they lost the games because he wasn't there. They were going to win those games probably anyway. Italy's a tough one, but they're not what they were. Ukraine was a fairly comfortable victory, and they've got players to cope without. So, yeah, I'd be like, no, I'm not going. Sorry, that's it. Cab says, let's get the likes up. Yes, indeed. Emma says, off topic, Owen, are you doing WrestleMania watch along? Thank you for the daily content. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. It's a pleasure to do the content every day. I'm just happy some of you enjoy it and tune in. As far as WrestleMania, yes, I will be. I will be a busy man this weekend. I'm going to be doing WrestleMania watch alongs on WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday. Also going to be doing post shows. Of course, also going to be involved behind the scenes in the coverage for Newcastle versus Manchester United. I'm also thinking about Saturday as well. There's another WWE event, NXT Stand and Deliver, which is during the day. I think it starts like 6 o'clock in the evening and would finish around sort of 9, probably 9 or 10. Depends when, again, it starts. I think it's 6 or 7. And I might do like a watch long for that and maybe a post show. So I'm going to be busy, basically. So if you haven't already, if that's your kind of thing, even if it's not, if you just want some fun this weekend, go over to my channel, Owen Wrestle News 365. Be sure to subscribe and join me. You don't even have to subscribe if you don't want. Just join me on the WrestleMania watch along. And yeah, a big weekend. Indeed, indeed, indeed. So yes, but no, thank you for tuning in, of course. Now, next question question was about Luke Shaw. Yes, the follow-up about Marcus Rashford and his contract was Luke Shaw and his contract. We spoke about this at the beginning of the stream. If you are just joining us, Luke Shaw has agreed a new 4-year contract with Manchester United, broken by the Athletic's Laurie Whitwell and David Ornstein this lunchtime. No official announcement from Manchester United. But Ten Hag was asked about the reports. And Ten Hag said, quote, "If he signed, I don't know. I haven't heard. John didn't inform me until now. I have to wait for that. If true, I am pleased. We definitely want to keep him because he's a really important player for our team." So once again, Erik Ten Hag wants this. Erik Ten Hag wants Luke Shaw to stay. Erik Ten Hag wants Luke Shaw in his side. And if you back Erik Ten Hag, you back this decision. Indeed, that's what he wants him to stay. Clearly, he's a big fan of him. Now, again, I think it's Erik Ten Hag playing a little bit coy. I haven't heard. Oh, has he? Oh, I don't know. It's like that birthday present, which you go, am I going to be, I tell you what I really want for my birthday. I want a PS5. And then your parents go, oh, we'll have to wait and see if that happens. Oh, I don't know. That kind of thing. Oh, no. I don't know if he has. I haven't spoken to John, We own, there's no such thing as telephones, mobile phones, cell phones, smartphones. I've aged myself. I've gradually got younger as I went along there. But still, there's no way he would know about this. Of course he does. He probably just doesn't want to spoil the official announcement. So, of course he wants to keep him. And indeed, he's happy that if it's true that he's agreed to stay. The follow-up question to that was, so is that the same with Rashford and De Gea? You want them to stay? And Ten Hag said, yeah, true. So, again, to all those people, and I'm more talking about David De Gea here, obviously he wants Marcus Rashford to stay. He's been our best goal scorer this season. He's one of the most informed players in Europe right now. Of course you would want him to stay. David De Gea, this is where I say keep the same energy, because those people, and I understand it's a polarizing topic, and I understand, especially nowadays, you can't convince people to, and you can't force people, you shouldn't, to have the same opinion as yourself. There are some people that are like, David De Gea, no, he needs to go, we need to find a new goalkeeper. There are some people that are like, no, you're wrong, he's being slandered, he's good enough, he saved us this season, he's won us games this season, etc., etc., etc. The most important thing here is the Manchester United manager, Erik Ten Hag, wants David De Gea to stay. He likes him. He wants him. He's been impressed by him this season. Ten Hag essentially confirmed all the reports that were out there the last few days, where it says he's been impressed by De Gea this season. He's been pleased with the improvement he's seen from distribution. It's not there just yet, and there are concerns over how high the wages are, but he wants him to stay. He wants to keep him. He said that. True. I want David De Gea to stay. So, granted, he's not in the press conference going to go, well, yeah, I want to keep Rashford, but De Gea, he can go. We're looking at different goalkeepers. He's not going to do that. But at the same time, it's not the first time he's gone on record that he wants David De Gea to stay. And also as well, that's not to say that we don't get another goalkeeper. Don't rule that out. I saw that David De Gea is available for, they reckon, about 40 million in the summer. If you get rid of Dean Henderson, which again would probably cost you, or get you, let's say 30. Maybe that's a bit much for Henderson. Even if it's 25, you're then buying David Raya for like 15 million. And it might be a situation where Raya comes in and it's not a case of, he has to play second fiddle to David De Gea, but they push each other and it sort of, the situation resolves itself. That might happen. Just keeping David De Gea and buying another goalkeeper, they're not mutually exclusive. Both can happen. And both probably should happen. If you're tying De Gea down to a new contract, could maybe be part of the whole long-term process of eventually replacing him. That could be a real thing as well. So, again, I think it's only logical he would want De Gea to stay. De Gea for us this season has been excellent. And I know people will dispute that. We've conceded so many goals. Or, yeah, his passing's not great. His passing is not great. It's got better. And he still looks nervous on the ball. But David De Gea has legitimately won us games and won us points this season with some of the saves he's making. And again, I think there's a big difference between some of the saves he's making whereby any goalkeeper worth their salt should be making that save. Yeah, okay, if it's right at him or it's a comfortable save where you go, yeah, he should be saving that. Some of the saves he's making, other goalkeepers would not be making. You look at the Fulham game. We could have been, for all intents and purposes, 3 or 4-0 down. West Ham at home in the FA Cup and in the Premier League could have been a completely different game. Leicester, we won it 3-0 in the end. We could have been 2 or 3-0 down if it wasn't for David De Gea. That's what he's been doing this season. And I thought it was really evident actually through March where, yes, that Liverpool game, 7 goals conceded, awful. Everyone was awful that day, but so was De Gea as well. That's unacceptable. But a couple of those games where we weren't playing well and we had to switch things up in defence and we were leaking opportunities and leaking chances, those games and that month could have been far worse had it not been for David De Gea. And then people will say, well, that's just his job. That's what he's meant to do. Well, sometimes in football, a lot of players don't do what they're meant to do, and it's not as simple as that. It's not as cut and dry as that. If a goal scorer scores 30 plus goals a season, you go, fine, that's what he's meant to do. No, you praise them because you go, that's excellent. Should be the same for a goalkeeper. It's excellent, and I feel like, excuse the pun, but for him, the goalposts are just constantly moved around and shifted about what he should be doing and what he isn't doing. And for me, it's just, it goes too far. I'm not against a new goalkeeper with better distribution, and I'm not against the idea that that's maybe where Manchester United should be heading in the future, because there's obviously going to be a ceiling of how better or how much improvement David De Gea can make with his distribution. There's only going to be a limited amount of it because he's north of 30 at this point, so he's only going to improve so much when it comes to his distribution. We've seen that, and his starting position and his claiming for crosses. Absolutely, that is only going to get so far. And long term, you'd want a younger goalkeeper anyway to eventually take over from David De Gea. So just because he stays doesn't mean you can't get that other goalkeeper, but it's just the extreme that bothers me of just, he's terrible, he's rubbish. What does he offer the team? We'd be picking we've conceded a lot. We'd have conceded a lot more had it not been for David De Gea. And that's not just because, well, that's what he should be doing. No. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. So Ten Hag wants him to stay, and hopefully he is going to be staying, but not on the terms that he's currently got right now, because again, that is ridiculous. 375 or 350k. It needs to be less, but it also needs to be fitting of what David De Gea wants and feels he deserves. And maybe that might come to a blockage, if you will, and maybe it won't get worked out. I don't know, but that's not the number one priority for Manchester United at the moment. And I think also, you see these really extreme statements, don't you, about De Gea, and you see it with Bruno as well, these sort of more divisive figures that I don't understand why they're divisive, but the extreme statements that we will never win anything with David De Gea in goal, despite the fact we have. We will never win anything with Bruno Fernandes playing as the 10, despite the fact we have, and even with Bruno, you've come close. It's just those kind of statements I feel like are crazy. Like that's the reason why, guys. The reason why we haven't won a Premier League title in 10 years, apparently, it's all because of David De Gea. It's just because of him. If we'd had another goalkeeper during this period of time, oh my goodness me. Or Bruno Fernandes, if he wasn't playing, we'd have had titles at this point. No, it doesn't. Again, it's not on one thing. It's not on one player. And in the same vein, it's not one solution. I suppose the biggest total solution is new ownership of Manchester United, really, if you want to scale it back that far. But it just that's the kind of stuff that really bothers me. It's the real extreme statements of when it comes to De Gea and just completely discrediting all that he's done. Or that he continues to do as well. If he wasn't doing it at the moment, absolutely, I think you'd have a right to say he's not doing it. Football is what have you done for me lately? And you're only as good as your last match. Whereas last matches he's been pretty good for Manchester United, and this season he's been pretty good for Manchester United as well. But again, I know that I'm not. I don't know. I genuinely don't even know if I'm in the majority or the minority with that one, because I think it changes every day. It really does. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. See if we can get to 100 likes, 150 likes. I know a lot of people, when it comes to the press conferences, kind of tune in after the fact. But if you haven't already, click that like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Next question was a question that I think might have replaced. It used to be Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba used to be asked about in every press conference. Then it became Cristiano Ronaldo used to get asked about in every single press conference. Like you could before even it started, you could type out that this question would be asked. This is the new one that gets asked in every single press conference. Marcus Rashford's had a great season. What do you put that down to? What have you done to improve him? Every single time. Every single press conference, this gets. What do you think Rashford's improved? What have you done to improve Marcus Rashford? And the answer was, it's not just about a talk. I'm not Harry Potter. And again, this is why I know it gets asked all the time. Is he said the Harry Potter line before, basically saying, "I'm not a wizard. I don't know magic. It's like a process. So there are many tools you are putting in your management to let people get the best form, get the best shape." Basically, he said that it's a lot of things. It's about the lineup. It's about the style of play. It's about coaching. It's about talks, formal and informal. It's about coaches working with him. It's about himself. That's the most important thing, because he is the one. He has the skills and the performance level. When he has the best attitude and mentality, he will score goals. But I can't lie. I'm more than happy to wax lyrical about Marcus Rashford for hours upon end. Lord knows that we've done it this season. But that question gets asked every single. What have you done? How have you done this with Marcus Rashford? What have you done in particular? How has Marcus? What's he done to improve it? Every single time. But Ten Hag also is a liar, because he is a magician. I might not have watched Harry Potter, but I know what he's talking about. He is a wizard. He's a magician. He said that there's that meme at this point, isn't there, where it's a manager can't work magic. Ten Hag, you liar. Absolutely, you liar. You can work magic. We know. If he had a fringe, he'd lift it up and there would be a scar there. Maybe if you look closely, maybe it's just different on Ten Hag. But, the guy is a magician. We all know. I didn't even want to say Potter, because when you talk about Potters in Premier Leagues at the moment, it's not going too well. Yeah, it's not going too well when it comes to Potters in the Premier League, particularly one in the capital at the moment. Yeah, I'm not really sure that's going to work out. Eric Ten Dumbledore, says Mortada. Yeah, that works a bit better. Who is like in the Harry Potter world and universe? Who is the best wizard ever? Is that Dumbledore? Is that Harry Potter? I don't know. Eric Ten Skywalker. It's got nothing to do with Harry Potter, but I'm just thinking like the Chosen One when it comes to a Jedi. The Chosen One, well, those banners were David Moyes. So the prophecy was incorrect with Manchester United. Didn't really work out with that one. But I don't know. I don't know why I'm talking about Harry Potter, because I haven't even watched it. The next question was about Anthony Martial. Is he available? And Eric Ten Hag said he's training. So for 2 weeks now, I think he can be in. So he said he thinks Anthony Martial, brace yourself, could be in the squad on Sunday. Whew. It only took like 6 weeks of training or whatever it's been, because he's been training for 2 weeks, but he's actually been back on the training pitch from individual training and then eventually coming into full, first team training. I think it was Barcelona at home, because I remember Flex, we got footage of it, of Martial training by himself. How long ago was the Barcelona game at home? We've played another Europa League round by that point. So it's been a while. And United clearly and Ten Hag have been like, right, this ain't happening again. We are not having this guy break down again. We're not to say that they rushed him back previously, because I don't think they particularly did. They sort of brought him back like any other player, but clearly his body cannot hold up like any other player or a normal player in Manchester United squad at the moment. So they are completely, with cotton wool gloves, I don't even know if that's a saying, made sure they managed him as carefully as possible. And to be honest, when he was asked about if Martial was available, if he'd have said no, I think a lot of people would have said, are you taking the piss? Because, again, this guy's been in training for like 6 weeks at this point, and if he wasn't good enough or fit enough for the bench, you would say, like, what is going on? So I would expect him to start on the bench. Having him as an option is great. And to be honest, when he started on the bench this season and he's come on, the majority of the time when he comes on or he does start for United, he has affected the game positively this season. I think the last time he did come on, didn't he score? Was that against who? Reading, I think it was, in the FA Cup, I think. And at the time, it was great because we saw Rashford, Martial, Sancho and Bruno. And I think that was like almost like for the first time since pre-season, it felt like, So I think he'll be on the bench at the weekend. But how many minutes he'll get, I don't know. My concern would be legitimately is he came on against Reading, I think it was Reading, for like 10 minutes. and then he disappeared for like 3 weeks. So even if he comes on, I would still be like, has he got through the game? Is he going to get through the game? I don't know. So we'll see. I mean, again, it's crazy. It's crazy that, the goal involvements that he does have this season, because, for the sheer lack of game time he has played, I'd love to know his minutes per goal, involvement. I'd love to know it, because it's got to be ridiculously high. I mean, it's got to be nuts, because it's crazy. But so I think he's going to be on the bench on Sunday. See what you guys are saying. Motada says his stats are insane. He's got an involvement rate of under 90 minutes, which would make me more angry. He can't stay fit and play this well. They're kind of sort of distorted, don't they? Because if he were to play actually 90 minutes, that would clearly come down. But I have no idea, honestly. But I think Ten Hag seemingly says he's going to be on the bench at the weekend. So, and if he's not, I would also say don't be shocked, because anything can happen. There's still time to go between now and Sunday when it comes to Anthony Martial. Another question asked to Ten Hag was about Scott McTominay. Of course, he had a great goal scoring week for Scotland. In the academy, he did play up front for Manchester United. So the question was put to Ten Hag, could we see maybe McTominay play up front at any point this season? Ten Hag said, Scott can play in many roles. It's clear he has scoring capabilities for Scotland, but also this season for us too. He's a really good finisher, but I see him as a midfielder. And this was the key thing, because in this question, there was a bit of shade thrown at the likes of Wout Weghorst and Anthony Martial. And you would say maybe deservedly so at Martial for not playing so many games this season. But the point was that you've got Rashford, who scored so many goals this season, and then the second top goal scorer for United is something like 5 or 6 goals. And Ten Hag said, I think I'm happy with what Wout is doing, because when Wout is in the team is performing better, which again is a massive confidence boost, you would think, for Wout Weghorst. Is it Wout or Wout? Because I always think it's like W pronounced as a V, but I might be wrong with that. You can let me know. But yeah, he's basically saying when Wout's playing, we play better. The team is performing better, which is... Look, I'm not going to come on here and slag off Wout Weghorst, because I don't think it's particularly fair. I think that you always have to judge him on what he is and the circumstances in which he was brought to Manchester United in January. This is a guy that was on loan from Burnley playing at Besiktas in the Turkish league, right? We signed him for 3 million on loan. If things were going right, and particularly on a financial footing, but we didn't have close to 1 billion with a B in debt, we would not be signing Wout Weghorst on loan in January. We'd be signing someone far different, far better, far younger, for a larger amount of money that could really help United kick on. For what he is, and for the circumstances that we were in, i.e. Martial hasn't played 90 minutes this season, I think he's done a pretty good job. At a time as well, which we had really important games after January, and he did a really good job. You cannot say that against Barcelona in those couple of games, he didn't do well. I think the second leg he came off at half-time, but in the new camp he dropped to the 10. He was excellent. Carabao Cup final, I thought he did really, really well. Nobody expected him. If you expected him to come in and get like 20 goals between January and the end of the season, then your expectations were just too high and unrealistically too high, in my opinion. I think for what he is and for the circumstances in which he was brought in, he's done an excellent job. He's probably doing better than I thought he would do. Clearly, is he actually properly at the level to play for Manchester United? No, probably. Because you see it in the games, don't you? That he gets chances made for him and the finishing's not great, but you can't fault his work ethic, his work rate. You cannot fault his availability. He is available every single game. He gives his all for the team. As Sabi said way back when we asked him in January, he'll go to hell for you. Absolutely he will. And I wouldn't be opposed to keeping Wout post the end of the season. I'm happy for next season to have Wout Weghorst on the bench as an option. If 10 minutes left, we need a goal and we're just pumping the ball into the box. I don't think he should be starting every game. If we get to a point where we're beginning next season, we do decide to keep him and he's still starting either as the striker or the 10 in the first few games of the season, then something's gone wrong in the summer at Manchester United from the transfer perspective. So, I don't have an issue. I don't. I really don't have an issue with Wout Weghorst. And again, I think he started and completed more games than Martial. I mean, to be honest, when he completed one game this season, from start to finish. He completed more 90 minutes than Martial, but I think he's made more appearances than Martial has done in the entirety of this season already. You know, I don't think you can begrudge him that. I really don't. But at the same time, clearly we need a strike. We need 2 new strikers really in the summer. Wout should be a third option. And the fact that he's starting every game goes to show that situation from the striking perspective. We lost Ronaldo for, in my opinion, the correct reasons. But 2, then we lost Martial, who was going to be our starting striker. So we're 2 strikers light. So we need 2 in the summer, and then maybe Wout stays. I don't know. But yeah, I think he's done as good a job as he can, certainly, this season, Wout Weghorst. See what else you guys are saying. Matt just says, Wout, let it all Wout. Ed says, ask Fleck, since he and Veggie are besties. Well, Mortada says, we could have had Thuram or Depay. But again, that's for me is a bit of a mistruth because we couldn't. I mean, you've seen the financial figures that have come out about United over the last 24 hours, 48 hours. We couldn't. If we're at a period of time where we've got $1 billion, but $1 billion, not even dollars, quid, £1 billion in debt. The transfer budget was, I mean, astronomically small for standards of Manchester United in January. That people like Wout Weghorst were the only realistic option of who we could get. You know, we couldn't get Cody Gakpo because we didn't have the money. We weren't doing permanent transfers. Memphis Depay wanted big wages, bigger than we can afford at the moment. Thuram kind of the same. I'm sure he would have wanted a big amount of money. We had to get Wout Weghorst, who's happy to be at United, and Marcel Sabitzer, where I don't think he commanded huge wages as well, because he would have been on a Bayern Munich contract, and actually the Bundesliga wages aren't ridiculously high, are they? So I don't know, but we couldn't. We couldn't literally. I don't think this is what used to frustrate me in January, and I was saying it at the time. People go, "Why didn't we get João Felix? Why on earth would we have done that?" One, we couldn't afford it, and 2, from a financial point of view, it made 0 sense even if we had the money to do it. Huge wages and a huge loan fee, and there was no option to stick around. He's going back to Atletico. He signed a new deal. That made 0 sense at the time, let alone from the financial situation. So, you know, that we couldn't. We literally couldn't. It was Wout or someone of his capabilities. Yeah, and you also had to, merge that into, what Ten Hag was looking for and who he would have wanted. And again, put that blame firmly on the Glazers. Look at the financial situation we're in at the moment. If anything, it's only solidified my feeling now. I was having a bit of a wobbler on, I don't know if they might stay, I'm not sure. When I saw those numbers come out yesterday and those financial results and no dividends again, I went, they're going. Because even if Elliot was a minority owner of United and buys in for $1 billion, that ain't enough. How crazy is that, by the way? $1 billion isn't enough to sort out United's issues at the moment. Because $1 billion is just about enough to pay off the debt, but then you've still got to do the stadium. Then you've still got to do the training ground. Then you've still got to do all of the other investment involved. So even if Elliot bought into United, $1 billion, here you go, Glazers, $1 billion, they wipe off that debt, they just get into more. So it just goes to show the financial wreckage that is United right now. So I looked at that and I said, it's almost heartbreaking to see United's finances like that. But if anything, the positive, not that there really is one. Well, the only positive I took out of it, those numbers, is that they're going because surely they can't stick around when they're in that bad a shape and they've left the club in that bad a shape. They're out of there. And to be honest, what must the bidders think? They've had a closer look at the financials. And they're going, you're kidding me, right? You can talk about the global reach of Manchester United and the potential here, but at the same time, I'm looking at these numbers. You owe what? Your debt is what? In terms of interest, loans, transfer fees owed. You need to fix this stadium. You want to do the training ground. You want to invest in the academy. And you're telling me that I should pay more? I'm doing you a favour to wiping out this debt, or I'm doing you a favour giving you $5 billion for this. because the amount of debt that's against this organisation, this company, is horrific, and it doesn't have long left. Surely that's a strong negotiating tactic from anyone who's looking to buy Man United right now is, hey, you need the money. And you need an out because we know you're not going to put your hand in your own pocket. You don't have the money for what's needed at United. So I'm being generous with $5 billion. I'm being generous with this. This is still a world record fee. I don't care if you want 6. Take this money and go. Otherwise, you're in trouble. And it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And it's sad for a club that didn't have it had zero debt essentially when they were purchased to now. That number, when you saw it was close to $1 billion, absolutely horrible. Absolutely, just it's sad, really sad. But again, part of me goes, if this is what it took, if this is what it takes to get rid of them, whatever, go. As long as the football club still exists, as long as it doesn't crumble to the ground, which if they stick around, who knows? But if this is what it takes to get them, then go. As long as they're gone, as long as they're resolved. And that should be, and that's kind of what's been lost, I think, throughout this takeover process, hasn't it? Where people have their preferred bidders, whether they're Sir Jim Ratcliffe, whether it's, Sheikh Jassim, whether it's even, not Elliot, but those two that are really looking to buy everything. The one thing that I think should be the unifying thing and not the divisive thing about this is that they can be gone, and there can be somewhat of a fresh start. Obviously there are concerns with, Ineos that the debt isn't going to go. I'm sure parts of it will, but the general debt is still going to remain. But I think it's crazy that they've been allowed to do it. It's wow, I really do. I think it's nuts. I've completely lost my track of thought. Oh yeah, it was about Anthony Martial. What was the bit? Oh, yes. Sunday's game, Newcastle, you said before they can be annoying with time wasting. Is that a concern? Ten Hag said, concern, we know that they delay. Yeah, it's something that is what the refereeing doesn't want. They want a tempo in the game. That is the aim. So they have to be consistent to let the game go. So do and act what the policy is. Basically saying that I hope they don't time waste again this weekend. The follow-up question, which again was a real kind of, let's see if we can get Eric to slip up, is that their only tactic that irritates you? And Ten Hag sort of brushed off, went, it's about us. We want to dictate and control the game. We play against a good opponent. They've had a great season, way of play. They've got a way of playing. They're hard to beat. We're looking forward to the challenge. There's evidence we can beat them because we beat them in the final and we should have beaten them at Old Trafford, but, we're focusing on ourselves. And that's just one of those ones they try and get you, don't they? Because even if you cast your mind back to when he said in the build-up to the Carabao Cup final that they're annoying, I felt at the time that it was more maybe he didn't pick the right word, but again, it's not his first language. He said, they can be annoying, and suddenly the whole room, you could tell, they're annoying. They're annoying. What do you mean they're annoying? They're annoying. Annoying how so? Annoying how so? I was like, whoa, the vultures are out. Wow, already, bang, 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 picking off the carcass. It was insane. Like one word. And even this kind of happened towards the end of this press conference too. Like this question. Oh my God, this is the question that I spoke earlier on that I kind of shook my head about it. Saying, Marcus Rashford gained attention for being in New York. Do you have an issue with that? Long flights and all that kind of stuff? Oh, so what a load of bullshit this is. Oh my God. Do you have an issue of him being do you have an issue of him being a human? Do you have an issue of him having a life? Do you have an issue of him during a time in which he's off doing things? It's like them articles that you see, and I've seen a few of Rashford recently, and it's not on. It is not on at all. Footballer goes outside after a result. Marcus Rashford, one was after the Liverpool game that we lost, seen outside in his, and they always say the price of the car, in his over £200,000 Lamborghini or whatever, going shopping in Manchester because he lives there. Yeah, obviously. Man goes outside, goes shopping and gets food so he doesn't starve or spends money that he's earned because he works. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And what's Eric Ten Hag going to say? Yeah, I didn't approve that. New York, I couldn't believe it. It's not as if, like, on these planes or anything like that. Again, he's probably flying first class, so he's probably got a bed and sleeps. And, it's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Feeding into all that kind of stuff. about the footballers aren't allowed to have lives. I hate that. Even after a loss, they're not allowed to be spotted outside. Come on. Like, it's crazy. Absolutely nuts. And Ten Hag said, rightfully so, for me it's a positive that he took time off from football. I've seen him back this week and he has shown a lot of energy, a lot of motivation. It was a good spirit and a lot of focus. And that's what he's saying. Like, he's played so many games this season. He's allowed to take time off when he's got a break to do so and relax. Switch your mind off from football. Everyone should try it. Whatever your job is, they always say work-life balance. I know it's different for a footballer, but if you've got the time off, go and do what you want. So you're not getting into trouble. He's not hurting anyone. He was spending time away. He was relaxing, decompressing. How bad do we even... I bet the knock wasn't even that bad. Again, calm down when it comes to all that kind of stuff. And it's just, you see it in the media all the time, and it's such an eye roll. And it really is. How dare he live his life? And I know people don't like it because, these footballers are multi-millionaires, but they are allowed to, go outside and do what they want. And a lot of time they go to places like New York. You saw it with Mbappe after the World Cup because people won't hassle them there like you already are from across the world. How dare you can't believe he's in New York. Oh, ridiculous. And then also as well, as part of this response, is Ten Hag was saying about how many games all of our players have played this season. He was basically saying that it's a positive he's on a break because, for certain players who were on international duty, that wasn't possible. He said Bruno Fernandes, he's played the most games across the entirety of the squad. I think he's played some of the most games in Europe out of any of the tops, however many leagues. And Manchester United as a club have played the most games across Europe, especially internationals. He said our international players, it's not as if as well that they're going on international duty and they're sitting on the bench. They're all playing. Our players are playing the most games. It's been a crazy season. They need times that they can have that breather. For me, it's a positive that he took that time, as I mentioned, turning off from football, and he looks refreshed already. And the response to that was, before the press conference was wrapping up, did you say that your international players don't start? No, he didn't say that. He clearly said that our international players, they all start. And again, it was like, why are you just trying to trip him up every 5 seconds? Because you can see the headline. Ten Hag slams international managers. Why aren't you picking our players? Come on. Ridiculous. And he said, no. I said they do start. Harry Maguire, Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro. They captained the side. He captained his country. So they've played the most games. We played an extra round in the Europa League, and that's his point. And again, you can see how that would be spun, can't you? Ten Hag hits out at playing so many games this season. No. The question he was asked is, do you have a problem with Marcus Rashford taking a break or going on holiday when he's got time off? And the answer was no, because he needs to rest, as anyone does. But, oh, my goodness me, got to grab that headline, ain't you? Got to grab that headline and get some controversy. It was insane. Absolutely insane. But there you go, guys. Rant over. I feel better now. Hope you do too. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Got nearly 500 people watching. Less than 150 likes. Oof. 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 I feel like we can get to 150. I feel we can. So if you haven't already, click that like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. And what's on tap this weekend? Well, I'll tell you. Tomorrow, of course, we've got the preview, Newcastle versus Manchester United. Flex spoke to Matty Renton. That's going to be tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. If you are a member, or even if you're not a member, you can join the Members Club. Links in the video description. It's not the pinned comment in the live chat because I forgot to put it in there, seemingly. I'm a disgrace. I'm a cheat. But it's in the video description, and you can also click the join button as well. And you can get access to all of the exclusive members-only content. Flex and myself did a live Q&A this lunchtime as well, which was a lot of fun. So if you just like that sort of, if you come here for the Manchester United talk, the football talk, but you want a bit more, a bit sometimes that maybe isn't football related, check out the UV Members Club, and you can watch UV Raw as well and all of the extra perks that come with it. And then, of course, Sunday is match day. We're going to have full match day experience, match view from the studio, all of the fan views, all of the reaction, all that fun stuff. So plenty of UV content on the horizon this weekend. I'm out of here. Have a great Friday, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.